there were a couple of jobs that I took for the very wrong reason. Mm-hmm. And that reason was always money, and ended up hating those jobs.
Did you tell your dad that he was right?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you love a backstage pass to candid discussions at the crossroads of motherhood, justice, community, entrepreneurship, mentoring, and success? You've got the Mighty Merp podcast, and part 4 in this series.
The way I was.
Yes.
I'm a very organized person.
Yes.
I was never one of those ones where somebody would come in and look at your desk and go, oh my God, how do you find anything? I know everything. I had everything wrong.
Correct. And I say this even though when you came into my office, I had just finished a few Zoom calls and I was eating at my desk and I was like, this is not the way my office normally looks. So you retired, and from what I can see, and I know, I'm watching it from how you promote yourself, but I can also see what shows you've been on, and you've been on some really successful shows. So how's the second career going for you, Parker?
I'm just having such a great time because, like I said, I'm doing work that I love to do, and I'm doing it because I like to do it, not because I have to do it. I don't have to work another day for money, but I love what I do, and I love the variety of it because, frankly, it was all the one thing that was surprising to me was the kind of work that I was going to get. I had been a theater actor from the time I was 5, or 8, whatever it was. I had never done television. I had never done commercials. I had never done modeling, or film, music videos. And so when I decided to retire, the first thing I did to jumpstart my new chapter 2, as I call it, or act 2, was to get new headshots, because I hadn't had headshots done since my wife and I had done Chorus Line, 35 years ago.
I was going to say, I think I've seen the original headshots, and your hair was not the same color.
No, very chestnutty brown and very thick and wavy. And so I went to a really good photographer that I knew, and he does a lot of fashion work. And I just said, I just want some, a variety of good shots. And he said, when he finished and he sent them to me, he said, I'm going to send these to an agency that I work with in Philadelphia. Well, he ended up sending them to the Reinhardt Agency, which is the biggest talent and modeling agency in Philadelphia. They picked me up immediately just from my photographs. Mm-hmm. And then they started sending me out on work, and I get all kinds of work. So I'm at that demographic now where I could play grandpa, where I can play the wise doctor or the old patient. Sometimes I'm laying on a gurney, sometimes I'm in a suit. Sometimes I'm just sitting on the couch with a couple of grandkids bouncing off of me. Mm-hmm. And it's that part of it was really surprising, the amount of work that I was going to get. And then I started, so the way you get work in the industry now is 2 ways. Either you have an agent, and I actually have 3. I have a Philadelphia, New York, and a Baltimore, Washington agent, because they're all different markets. Or there's also web-based casting systems. One's called Casting Networks, and one's called Backstage. Another one's called Actors Access. And I get work through those. And then I started getting these, offers to do television, and music videos and films. And so the cool thing about my job now is I never know what I'm going to do next. And because most of it, if I audition today, it's going to be for something probably in a couple of weeks.
Well, that's a nice turnaround.
Yeah.
So do you think the success now has to do with sort of, I mean, you said demographics, but age, the fact that you're still like, I'm not hitting on him. Still a very good-looking man who, you know, has a lot of style and fashion and sass.
That's some of it. Because let's face it, society's getting older, and what we used to think of as a senior citizen, you know, people don't think about that anymore. Like, so if you're trying to promote a new, like, senior living facility, these places are pretty hip now. You know, they got bars and discos, and they don't want frumpy old people. They want people that look like they're still living life.
Yes.
You know, living their best life.
Well, it's not really a nursing home.
No,
it's not. It's the idea of almost like a. We're going to create a whole. I call it camp for older people. It's all there for you, right? Like, so that it's still fun.
Yeah.
All right. So I think the two questions I always like to ask near the end of the interview for people who have been lawyers and practicing for a long time. There's two. I'm going to ask both of them at the same time. You can pick one of the two, or both. One, any advice that you would give your younger self that you wish you had regarding your career path or life lesson? I'll wait. I'll let you answer that, and then I'll ask the second question.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of my career as an attorney, there were a couple of jobs that I took for the very wrong reason. And that reason was always money, and ended up hating those jobs.
Did you tell your dad that he was right?
You know, absolutely. Yeah. And it goes back, I'm glad you brought that up, because it goes back to that. It's that basic, that you have to do something that you're passionate about. Because, and if you, I don't care if you went all through law school and you passed the bar exam, if you decide that you hate practicing law, get out, do something else. Because you can, because let's face it, I always said that, you know, as lawyers, we know a little bit about everything and a whole lot about nothing.
That's funny. And so then my second question, which is to all lawyers, because there are two types of lawyers, I've decided generally. There are lawyers who love what they do. And then there are lawyers who hate what they do. And it seems very extreme. So as someone who has kids that are in college that are looking long term of what they want to do, I do have one that's definitively wants to go to college. If a young person said to you, I'm thinking about law school, what do you think? Or I think I might want to be a lawyer. What would you say to them? Would you encourage it? Would you discourage it?
Okay, so where I always start with that question, and it's asked all the time, I always ask the person, what do you want from your life? What kind of a lifestyle do you want? How much money do you need to make to maintain that lifestyle? And just where are you happiest living? Do you want to live in a city? Do you want to live at the seashore? Do you want to drive a Mercedes, or are you okay driving a Chevy? do you want a big showcase house, or are you okay with a cottage or something more downscale? What is it you want out of life? And start from there. Mm-hmm. Because when you say, should I go to law school? Well, people go to law school for all different reasons. If you ask me if I wanted to go to law school to become one of those big law firms in Philadelphia or New York or any big city where you're working 80 hours a week and you're always looking over your shoulder, and it's like, oh my God, if I don't make partner in 5 years, I'm out of here. And, starting salaries are $250,000, but
to you, that's a torture chamber.
That would be hell. It would just it'd be absolutely hell. Yeah. So it's what you want.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is that I think at 20 and 21 and 22, nobody really knows what they want yet. And I think that's a real, or at least a reality with the way my kids have grown up. But what I always say to them, and then, which is this, is that I love what I do, and they see that I love what I do. And so there is a component of wanting to be a lawyer because they see I'm happy professionally. But I always have to say to them, I know a lot of people who went to law school that do not like.
They're miserable. They're just miserable. And number one, I think the people that I think are miserable, number one, that's all they are or all they can perceive of themselves to be is like, I'm a lawyer. I was never that person. Being a lawyer was my job, but I had so many other interests, in art and music and theater and dance and, all of these different things that round out my life, children and all of that. If I defined myself just by being a lawyer, I probably would have been pretty miserable too.
Yeah. So I always think it's interesting. I like what you're saying about one of the reasons why you think people who are lawyers are miserable. I always think it's because they ended up with a type or area of law that they started their first job in and they didn't love it. And because they were making such good money at the time, they couldn't leave it and they got stuck. Now, I was similar to you. I wanted to be a criminal attorney. Yeah. I thought I wanted to prosecute, ironically. Right. And then I went to law school and everyone said, no, you're a public defender.
Right. And you knew with either one of those jobs, you weren't going to get rich.
No, I did know that. And my husband was a teacher at the time. We both had public interest type jobs. Right. But we created a very nice life for our four kids.
It's all about balance.
Yes.
And we're the same way. My wife owns her own business, and she does very, very well with her business. And, we've been able to, between the two of us, create a lifestyle that suits us.
Right. So we're going to finish up with a few rapid fire questions. The good news is they're not complicated. They're just fun. But I always like the way people respond, and I always get some kernels or tidbits of insight that I don't get through the interview. I think I know the answer to this one already, but what do you like to do to relax or unwind?
Beach.
Yes.
I just love the beach. And that's why as soon as I graduated from law school, I came back because I grew up in Bridgeton, but I spent all my time in Ocean City at the Jersey Shore. So.
You have sand in your toes?
Sand in my shoes and all that, yeah.
Okay. Do you have a famous quote or saying that inspires you or that you keep going back to? It's not a quote or
anything famous. I'm an atheist, but I like to believe in what was taught to be the golden rule. I think that you need to treat people the way you would like to be treated. And I think that's the best moral advice I can give anybody.
I agree. I don't know if you can see it, but I have a big poster picture there, and it says work hard, be nice. And
Yeah.
the be nice is like work hard, be nice.
Exactly.
Yes. Are you reading anything right now? What type of books do you like to read if you do?
I like to read kind of thriller novels. Again, just something that's totally absurd that I can escape. I really like. There's a writer. Started out as a crime writer for the Miami Herald. His name is Carl Hyacin, and he writes crime novels, but with crazy, funny, absurd characters. He's my favorite. So.
And my last question, which always makes people laugh in the end once I ask it, because they know me. What's your favorite color, Parker?
Red. And if you've ever seen my house, it's just like doused in it.
Really?
Yeah. And it's my wife's favorite color, too. So we have red accents on just about everything. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny, because I know everyone knows what my favorite color is at this point.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, it's pink. But you clicked onto the podcast, which means you know.
It's pink.
But I don't really have anything pink in my house other than I do get fresh flowers every week. And there's always pink.
I like pink. I like to wear pink.
You look very good in pink, too.
Because, and again, that's another one of those things that some men don't feel comfortable. They don't feel it's macho enough or masculine enough. I think pink is awesome as a color. Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Wow. My virginity is gone.
Are you okay?
I'm a little verklempt.
I really am excited to talk to you because, and I'm going to finish, as much as this is the legal podcast, being a mom is like such an important, I always say is really my first job and my most important job. But I have 2 kids that are really creative and who did acting all through high school.
Well, you're married to an artist, right?
And my ex-husband, who I'm very good friends with still, and he was a very good person. In the end, we were married 28 years, and then we've just recently been divorced, but is an artist as well. But one of my kids who's in college picked a very non-creative route. And I keep trying to explain, you don't have to do one or the other. And so I'm so excited for him to listen to the podcast. I don't know if he will. None of my kids have listened to any of my podcasts. But I'm going to really encourage them to listen to this one to know that you can do both. And that being a working actor is success in and of itself.
Absolutely. And I think you become a better lawyer or a better whatever you are if you have something else that rounds you out. People that don't have any art in their life, I feel sorry for, and I at the same time I can't understand their world because I can't go a day without listening to music. I mean, I love jazz, and I play it constantly. And my wife is a dancer, and I'm always watching dance programs with her.
I almost wanted to go, God, I'm a dancer. A dancer dances. I took us full circle back to a chorus line.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks again, Parker.
Thank you, Melissa.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned. There is more to come. Mighty Merp is available on iTunes, Spotify, and all your favorite apps and players. But the best way to experience the show is to visit mightymerp.com. That's mightymerp.com. This podcast is not a source of legal advice. No two legal cases are the same. Contact an attorney if you require legal assistance.